Hello, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving deep into a case that's as baffling as it is tragic. A story of obsession that spiraled into a meticulously planned murder. This is the case of Kenneth "Kenny" Fandrick, a respected pipe fitter at Intel's massive campus in Hillsboro, Oregon. His story isn't just a crime. It is a chilling reminder of how a seemingly normal life can be violently upended by a stalker who refuses to let go. It all began on a quiet January morning in 2022. The sprawling Intel parking garage, usually just a place for employees to start their day, became a crime scene. Kenny Fandrick was found in the driver's seat of his car, lifeless. At first glance, it might have seemed like a medical emergency, but the investigators on the scene, like Detective Devin Rigo, immediately felt something was off. The way Kenny was positioned, the lack of struggle in his own vehicle, it just didn't add up. This wasn't where the story ended. It was where it began. As detectives pieced together the initial moments, they turned to the garage's security cameras. And what they found was truly unsettling. Just hours before Kenny's body was discovered, a mysterious figure was caught on camera, dressed in a hard hat, wearing glasses and a face mask. This person wasn't there to work. They were armed with a can of blue spray paint, methodically moving from camera to camera, trying to blind the very eyes that could expose them. It was a clear attempt to cover their tracks, to operate in the shadows. But even with their efforts, they couldn't erase everything. The remaining footage, combined with what they found at the scene, pointed investigators toward a horrifying conclusion. Kenny hadn't died in his car. He had been killed somewhere else, and his body was staged to look like a simple, non-violent death. The crime scene told one story, but the hidden truth was far more sinister. The investigation quickly shifted focus. Where was the real crime scene? The answer, they believed, lay with a specific vehicle, a maroon minivan. Surveillance footage showed this minivan lurking near the Intel campus, a silent predator waiting for the right moment. The theory was clear. Kenny was attacked and killed inside this van, which was then driven to the parking garage where his body was moved into his own car. This minivan wasn't just a vehicle, it was a mobile crime scene, the key to unlocking the entire case. Finding it became the #1 priority for the Washington County Sheriff's Office. Every detective, every resource was now dedicated to hunting down this crucial piece of evidence. As investigators dug deeper, they spoke to Kenny's wife, Tanya Fandrick. Her testimony blew the case wide open. She told them that her husband had been living in fear, stalked by a man from their past, Dr. Stephen Milner, a former veterinarian. This wasn't just a vague suspicion. It was a documented history of harassment and obsession. Milner had previously been in a relationship with Tanya, and after they broke up, his behavior became increasingly alarming. The Fandricks had gone to the police multiple times. Milner had even been charged for placing a GPS tracking device on their car. He'd been warned to stay away. But the threats continued. Kenny had a target on his back, and everyone, including law enforcement, knew exactly who was aiming. Detective Stephanie Winter stated it plainly. This wasn't a random act of violence. This was personal. With a prime suspect identified, the hunt for the maroon minivan intensified. Detectives referred to vehicles used in crimes like these as burner cars, bought for a specific purpose and then quickly discarded to destroy evidence. The maroon minivan was the classic example. Security footage showed it parked in a Home Depot lot for a period, seemingly a staging ground, before it disappeared just hours before Kenny's murder. The clock was ticking. Detective Rigo and his team knew that if they could find that van, they would find the forensic evidence of blood, the fibers, the DNA that would directly link Stephen Milner to the crime. It held all the answers they needed to secure a conviction. They scoured databases, checked with the DMV, and followed every lead, hoping to find the van before it vanished forever. The breakthrough came, but it was a heart-stopping race against time. The team managed to trace the minivan's bay. They discovered it had been abandoned shortly after the murder, towed from its location, and sold to a local scrapyard. Detective Rigo rushed to the yard, hoping he wasn't too late. But as he arrived, he was met with a devastating sight. The maroon minivan, the single most important piece of evidence in their case, was in the process of being crushed. He watched, helpless, as the hydraulic press flattened the vehicle, destroying the crime scene and seemingly any hope of finding the direct physical evidence they so desperately needed. It was a gut-wrenching moment for the entire investigation. Their main crime scene was gone, reduced to a heap of twisted metal. Losing the minivan was a massive blow, but the investigators didn't give up. They had to build their case on a mountain of circumstantial evidence. They painstakingly traced Milner's movements, connecting him to not just the minivan, but several other burner cars he had allegedly purchased and used in his stalking campaign against the family. They compiled a timeline using surveillance footage from various locations, showing a pattern of calculated and obsessive behavior. Witness statements corroborated Tanya's story, painting a picture of a man who couldn't let go and whose obsession had turned deadly. The prosecution's case was built like a puzzle, with each piece of circumstantial evidence fitting together to reveal the full damning picture of Milner's actions leading up to that fateful day. When the case finally went to trial, the courtroom was tense. The prosecution laid out their argument, detailing Milner's relentless stalking, the burner cars, the spray-painted cameras, and the sheer improbability of it all being a coincidence. Tanya Fandrick took the stand, bravely recounting the fear she and her husband lived with every single day. On the other side, Milner's defense attorneys hammered on the lack of direct evidence. They pointed to the crushed minivan, arguing that without it, there was no definitive proof that Milner was the killer. They claimed the case was purely circumstantial, a collection of coincidences that didn't add up to murder. The jury was left with a difficult decision. Could they convict a man of murder without a body from the primary crime scene, without a murder weapon, and without a direct forensic link from the van? It all came down to whether they believed the web of evidence was strong enough to prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. In the end, the jury delivered its verdict. After deliberating, they found Dr. Stephen Milner guilty of murder. The circumstantial evidence, while not a single smoking gun, was so overwhelming and pointed so directly at Milner that the jury was convinced of his guilt. The verdict was a testament to the relentless work of the investigators who, even after losing their key piece of evidence, managed to build an undeniable case. It was a story of a husband's worst fears coming true, a wife's desperate warnings, and a trail of evidence that was almost lost to a scrapyard crusher. But ultimately, the truth, as it so often does, found its way to the surface. It couldn't be crushed. This case is a powerful example of how persistent police work and a strong circumstantial case can bring justice even when the odds seem stacked against them. It's a somber tale, but one worth knowing. Thank you so much for watching today. If you found this story compelling, please hit that like button, and do you not forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you wouldn't miss our next deep dive. Stay safe, and I'll see you in the next video.